Do you guys have a studio where you do this in?
Fairfield. Typically, I was recording everything that you see on Instagram was recorded in Fairfield.
So it was a studio that you rent out, or it's owned by your
Owned by my friend. He
nice.
altered. He has a basement that he just turned into a full studio.
Okay.
So like he rented the space out to other people. So if you know people that are looking to record, podcasts,
YouTube.
create anything like that, he does a full package. Like he will do editing and all that stuff. Well, you got.
Are you gonna send this to him, or you do the editing?
I do editing because like I've learned a lot through him. He's a good friend of mine, and I think one thing that we were really big on is autonomy. So like if he knows I don't need to be dependent on him. Like when I first started, I didn't have any equipment.
Right.
Like I would be dependent on him. I would schedule, be like, all right, can you make these clips for me? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And as you can see now, I've invested in getting a pod track. We got lapels, we got multiple cameras, and it's been working for us. So
Good stuff.
yeah, so it's about,
Yeah, you
Make-
gotta
making your way.
collaborate and then grow
exactly.
laterally.
And then still, obviously, I think another thing he mentions as well is like the highest form of self-awareness or camaraderie is interdependence. So being aware that I want to be able to do something by myself, but knowing
Sure.
that I don't have to because there's certain people that may do something better than me that I can rely on.
Sure. No, I get it. It's the same thing as all businesses, right? They say, you gotta know a little bit of something. Once you know something, right, and then you think you could master it, but is your time well spent there? That's when you have to collaborate and hire professionals and then work together so the product comes out a little bit better, right? And the mistakes aren't there. And I get it.
It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there.
That's,
But you got don't try to get ahead, man. Don't try to get ahead. We gotta slow down for the people. You feeling like yourself today?
I feel not like myself. I'm a little excited today.
Really?
I got a little bit of energy, and I think that I want to use it to share some thoughts with the general public. But more importantly, I think I kind of want to talk to people in need. Right?
Okay.
Especially during the holiday times, because sometimes people get the blues during the holidays, right?
Holidays are tough times.
It could be for several reasons. It's either they're lonely or they're surrounded by so much chaos, right? And then they can't deal with the chaos, and then it's a time for celebration, but at the same time we gotta be kind to ourselves. We're trying to be kind to others with gift giving and. The greetings and things like that, and sometimes we neglect ourselves, and then there's more burnout during these kinds of seasons. So I think this is something to talk about, and how to deal with like high pressure situation. In fact, families getting together too.
that's a
high
interesting time.
pressure. That's a pressure cooker right there.
Yeah,
so
it's different
especially
than
these days, right?
when everybody was just kids, right? And now everybody has opinions, and everybody's lived enough life to feel like their opinions have been validated.
Well, I think it's compounded by, how much transparency there is in society with social media and the news, and how much everything's trying to control us. It's trying to, it makes our opinions either stronger or weaker, right?
Yeah.
But then, once we get together with the family where we're supposed to be together, that's when the real divisions might surface, which is kind of a sad thing. But I think family should be a foundation for us living here, and we're finding it elsewhere sometimes.
Oh,
right?
so often. You're getting into a really good subject, but I want to remind the people or let the people know who you are and what you do.
So I'm Chuck, and I own a store in Stamford, Connecticut called Scout Adventure. It's an outdoor running boutique.
Okay.
We started as a streetwear store back in 1997. at Sportscape,
Yeah.
and we were right across the street before the Residence Inn was a hotel,
Located right down Stanford.
right downtown on Atlantic Street. And that was in 1997, so we were dealing with a lot of sneakerhead culture, skate.
How did you find yourself in that culture, or in that, what's the word I'm looking for?
Business?
That, yeah, I guess in that business.
Well, my family's been in the business since the 70s in retail.
Retail business.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also it evolved into, selling footwear in inner city neighborhoods, and it was like Yonkers, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and we had relatives down in like Virginia, Washington D.C. and things like that. So it was kind of a family enterprise, but it wasn't supposed to be my, I guess my educational destiny, because I studied a totally different thing in school.
Oh, we're gonna get into that too.
So it's something that I thought that I could be successful with, and also help my family out. And now I'm here, so we changed a lot.
It's just you. I mean, I don't. I was pretty young back then, so I don't remember seeing your family members. I've always known you.
Oh yeah, they had nothing to do with this store. It was just I branched off and then started my own store.
Okay.
I incorporated. I did all of the paperwork for starting a small business in the state of Connecticut and Stamford. So,
and just for transparency, is that what Mercury Elite is?
Mercury Elite is the name of the company that I own, which owns other subsidiaries.
Okay.
So Sportscape is one, Scout Adventure is one.
Okay.
I'm starting a landscaping company under the same. So it's the corporation.
Okay,
so
I
it's
like
the
that.
parent company. Yeah.
Okay. How did you come up with Mercury Elite?
Well, Elite these days doesn't have such a positive vibe to it, because elitist. But back in the 90s, we're trying to be a little bit up on a more premium side of things, and with the product that we're carrying. But also the word Mercury to me also these days may not seem like a very positive word, but it means very now it means volatile. But back then I saw it as the god of speed, right? Hermes, Mercury, and it's also always change, the god of change, right? So I'm always evolving. So that and the other word put together is plus incorporated.
Plus incorporated. I like it.
Yeah.
I guess I see where you're coming from with the whole Mercury meaning being a little slight, or elite meaning being a little slighted. But when I think of Mercury, I actually think of, because I have a lot of friends or people around me that are really into astrology. Do you know what it means when they say Mercury's in retrograde?
I heard of Mercury rising, so in retrograde, I don't know exactly what the meaning of that is.
Me either, but shit's supposed to be different around that time. I really don't know.
Yeah, so it's change, right?
Yeah.
So I believe in things like that, and how planets align, and cosmic order as well as karmic order, which is like is universal, right?
Yeah,
so it changes a lot of stuff, including human behavior, right?
Okay.
And how the animals behave in the wilderness, right?
Yeah.
So all of this stuff is a science and an art, but it's over my head, and I think it has its purpose, but I can't wrap my head around it sometimes.
But you know when you experience it.
Yeah, you experience it, but it's also a good way to like kind of connect unanswered questions that are unanswerable to you at that moment, and kind of blame it on the universe, and blame it on, let's say, God, or blame it on religion. So let them take care of it. This is why I'm feeling this way. I don't need to get too scientific about why I'm feeling this way, or what kind of changes are taking place.
That they're happening, and they'll pass at some point.
Right.
Speaking of change, so you started off as a streetwear brand, and now I think that from my opinion, this is more of a holistic approach of your clothes or what you wear healing you as well, not just looking good in it. How did you change? How did you find this new
I think
business?
it's called growing up.
You think so? You think so?
Yeah. It's growing up, maybe growing old, but it's just growing, right? So, we were heavily fashion based and, everything had to do with, I guess, status with what the stuff that what you're buying from me is about. And that was great. And, it was fast and it was highly stressful. But then
Can I ask what was stressful about it?
oh my gosh, it was just every dimension of that type of business it moves way quicker than one person can handle as a
Like the
business
turnover of the styles?
turnover of the styles, right? The customers, right? The demand, and also your vendors, your suppliers, your partners, and then
yeah.
credit, right? And then getting the product in, making the money as fast as you can so that you can get the next thing in. And it was just a constant churning of that cycle and lifting heavy boxes and moving product around. And then,
Okay.
it's that was part of it. And it's a daily stress, which is something that I think every small business owner may go through because, there's like these days it's really hard to be a small business entrepreneur, right? Because the credit's not out there, and it's just like everybody there's so many forces working against a small business entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So that's why you got to be able to deal with that stress and eat it up, and then make sure that you don't get crushed by it. So,
Yeah, so you've got to respond to all of those different factors, right?
quickly,
To stay relevant.
right? And it's that mental agility that you need.
So going into Mercury is the umbrella, right? And Sportscape was the first business you operated
store,
under,
correct,
right?
under
The first store you
Mercury.
operated under Mercury. Do you feel like working at Sportscape and dealing with that stress through the years changed you as a person?
Yes, yeah, of course. So it was a lot of contraction and expansion at the same time. So it's like almost like a rubber band, right? The stress really makes it taut, and then it stretches you out, right? And then you have to appreciate the times when it releases and becomes, not as tight. But you got to take that time, right?
Yeah.
To really just like either like rest or keep building the business. And that's where boredom is stress too, right?
Yeah.
So when things slow down, I get stressful too. I get stressed out because it's like, okay, things aren't moving as fast as I want it to be. I have to wait for other people to respond. I have to wait for this product to get in. So that term where it's not as stretched out is also stressful.
Yeah, so it's almost like you're not as stressed out, but you're so used to working in that high intense environment that you're like, how do you just get back into it to get the ball rolling?
It could be like that. You know that feeling when you go to summer vacation, you take 3 months off from school, and then it's like, oh my God, the anticipation of going back to school. Some people get really excited, but it seems like a lot of people, I was in this school, is like, I just get like really, I don't want to go back to this. I had fun this summer, I'm having fun, and how am I going to get back into that, high intensity with all kinds of, with the schoolwork and, but also like the social, right? That's like a big part of growing up is trying to learn how to work with other students and be a part of a society, right? So that's the challenge. And, once you're in your little world, then that becomes, like in summer vacation, you lean on it too much, and then it's hard to change out of it. So that elasticity is really important, I think, for me. So that way I can stay agile.
Okay. And what was, I know you said like the landscape changing, the stressors and all that other stuff. Was there an experience or a driving point that really said, all right, Chuck, you need to change a lot of these things, and that birth Scout, like what was that transition like?
So Scout is a term that I studied a little bit, thinking about how that word could be used for a retail space and what it's going to encompass and the meaning of the word and the term scout. So I looked at it as, of course there's an outdoor aspect to it, right?
Okay.
It's, like Boy Scouts, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought about like talent scouts, like for athletes and for
Yeah,
celebrities and for actors. Then I thought about like in a military sense, a scout is always on reconnaissance, looking for strategy and opportunity. And then there's a scout, which is the Native American Indian Scout, and that's where the feather logo came from.
See, I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, so it's a little play on words, but it's got a broad meaning to it and multiple meanings to it. So that's why I chose that. And then adventure is just, it adds more outdoor to it. So, but we're known as Scout, and that pushed me to evolve into more outdoor nature. You said holistic. I'm gonna say wholesome, right?
Okay.
Over holistic as well as holistic. Right?
Why do you say wholesome? Can you break that down for me?
Well, it's performance based, right? A lot of the product that I'm trying to bring in is going to be, Blue Trade certified, where the people that build the product are being paid a fair wage, living wage, instead of using, the normal factory resources, which they can't live off of those wages, and they work so hard. Socially responsible, and also that's connected to nature, and that is also ecologically responsible for the environment. I know that's a catchphrase that's being used a lot these days, but I'm starting to respect that, and then trying to show consumers that there are products out there that do less damage to this earth than what we are normally used to buying.
And you're making them easily accessible.
Right, so I'm actually throwing it in people's faces, but they like it because we try to choose something that's like, it's not too crunchy, right? Not too granola, right? Like REI or something like that. We're here in downtown Stamford, right? It's an urban environment, so they can wear this whether they're like going hiking or they're walking on pavement.
Yeah.
In the streets, right? They could go to work with it. They could do whatever they want with it, and it's not limiting you to where you go.
No, I'm
So
not.
it's outdoor.
And there's definitely a very large truth to that. Speaking to my own experience, coming in here and the hokas I bought, I think I bought the
Arahis, yeah,
Arahi
great
8s
shoe.
or something like that.
Yeah.
I love them. I wear them to work some days. I went on a trail walk with my friend another day. So they feel universal to me. I do what I got to do. I get to where I got to go,
Right.
and my feet feel great.
Right. So the way I look at it is that we're selling you a tool, right? So we're selling a tool, and it's got to have technology and performance associated with it. But what's more important, I always say this to people like our mobility customers or range of motion or athletes, it's 20% shoe, 80% you. So form and skill is 80% of your performance.
Yeah.
And then the shoe is a tool that's going to help you. So, and it's not
like
only
that.
shoes, but it's apparel too, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that work outside, and we have to sell them waterproof stuff, and it's just I'm not teaching people how to wear clothes, but it's something that people should know what they're wearing and what it means to wear what they're wearing, because it's almost like a billboard in a way as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you'll be surprised how much people feel uncomfortable in their daily clothes. I really think that's a common thing.
You mean like in a uniform, you say?
Not
or
even just uniform, just like the attire that they have. Does that make you?
It makes sense,
Like,
yeah. So
to your point, when the clothes they wear to go perform, whether it be at work or not,
right.
like.
So that's like almost like saying being uncomfortable in your own skin, right?
Yeah.
So these are decisions that anybody can make, right? When purchasing, and I call it purchasing with purpose, right? So if you're going to spend a single dollar on something, I want people to know where that money is going to. Every single dollar that they spend, whether it's at McDonald's, whether it's here, whether it's at Macy's or like on Amazon, where does that money go to?
Okay.
Right? That's number one, right? Because that's the decision that you made with your own money, right? So you have the right as a consumer, right? Number two is the functionality, right? Is it comfortable? Is
Yeah.
it keeping me warm? Is it keeping me cool? How does it make me feel good about myself? How do I look in it, right? Is it the right color? Everything, and those are aesthetics that set a mood, which actually enhance the experience.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the runners come in here and they're very specific about the performance aspects and the technical features of equipment, but color is really important to them because they say it makes me feel better about doing hard work.
It's all part of it.
You know, I respect it, and that's something that's, you know, it's become important for our business strategy too.
Okay. It sounds like you're you mentioned this a lot. You talk about evolution, talked about changing, growing up. So I want you to touch on, like, you mentioned this brand is now holistic and wholesome. You have three words that we spoke about previously that wraps all that together for you. Do you remember what that was?
No, I don't. Does it start with an H or a W?
Starts with an M. It's three different words. What's the whole thing? The mind, the body.
Oh yeah, the trifecta.
The trifecta.
The triangle, or the trinity. Yeah. So recently, I think it's because of just the introspection that I was forced into during the shutdowns of the pandemic.
Okay.
That I started seriously getting spiritual, which I never was that way growing up or even before, you know, having Sportscape. And it was very just fast paced and one-dimensional, and it's just business. And then once I didn't really have a business for, I think it was over 6 months because of the shutdowns. I was still open, by the way. I was
Really?
still running the store. I was doing deliveries. I went to people's offices, their houses,
Wow.
taking because they couldn't get here.
But it wanted to feel good.
Well, the doctors were prescribing the product. They went to the foot doctor, orthopedic. Suddenly, all these people started getting pain because they were sedentary, because they weren't moving around, they weren't going to work, and all of a sudden, all these things that they used to ignore surfaces because they were sitting still.
Yeah.
Oh, why does my knee feel like that? Why does my lower back feel like that? Why does my neck feel? Why does my shoulder feel like that?
You finally sat down to
And
pay attention.
Yeah, and it was happening for years and years of all of that mobility restriction, and it surfaces, and that kind of surfaced in me physically, right? So I was like, I got to deal with my knee pains. I got to deal with my foot pains, and I started looking at like a lot of the like podcasts and YouTube, because that was like my main source of information about you know, I just studied, and that brought the mind in. So the physicality was, you know, just like being able to actually exercise and stretch and keep moving, and it's so easy to sit still when there's nothing to do, right? Yeah. So, and nobody's forcing you to do it, right? But you're still getting paid by something, right?
So, hopefully.
And then those two things I was really trying to develop. So I was doing a lot of push-ups and pull-ups, calisthenics, you know, squats, and no equipment. And then things started changing with me, right? Physically. And then I cleaned up my eating habits, right? And that was important for me because I started reading and consuming content about, you know, how our food is being grown and processed and all that stuff. And then that started affecting my mind. So things started getting very clear, like mentally clear. Okay. Because of food and exercise, nutrition and exercise.
And what year did you switch to Scout?
2012. So it's been 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So so we always had an outdoor, I guess, element, even with Sportscape, because we were selling outdoor products like the North Face, Mormon, all those brands.
Yeah, the hiking boots
crossed
and stuff.
over, right? So the A Solos and the, oh my gosh, even all the hiking boots, it all crossed over into streetwear. And I really like that part because I love nature and I love trees and I love being in a forest. I love being in a mountain. But it's hard to do that here in downtown Stamford. You have to jump in a car at least, right?
Yeah.
To do that, to get out to nature. And that way I kind of try to I made that jump, right? Let's focus a lot of the resources on outerwear and outdoors. And then let's see if we can evolve into something like that. So
Wow.
that's what happened, and it's not easy, and we're still trying to have get our old customers to come over to our site, right?
Yeah.
And and be more conscious of what they're wearing and how it functions and how they function. And plus, not only did I grow up, all the kids that I
Everybody
saw
around
grow up, they grew up.
Yeah, not everybody.
Now they're coming in here. I got flat feet. My knees are hurting. I need something. And then, this is like life-changing stuff. But again, it's just it's really decisions that you make with that dollar that you have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's something that it could correct you. It could help you be a better athlete, but it's just a tool again, right?
That's very. I love that you mentioned that because like definitely the community grew up with you. And,
Oh yeah.
And I was looking into Sportscape and Scout, and I didn't know how community involved you were, and I think that's very amazing to mention. Can you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have to admit that I'm not as involved at an institutional level as a lot of small businesses are, where hooking up with the hospitals, hooking up with the shelters, hooking up with Domus and things like that. When I have the resources and I have the time and I have the energy, and doing things like this, right? Because this is something that right now is very important to me, and it's we've been known, right, to do those things. We used to do during those launch dates. You had to bring during Christmas time a toy, donate a toy. Thanksgiving time, if there's a launch, you had to bring in a canned or non-perishable food item for the food bank.
Lower Fairfield.
Yeah. That was actually a ritual, and we had to hire a moving company for all the toys one year that came through this store to take
to
it
Stamford
up
Hospital.
to Stamford Hospital.
But like even that in itself, like that takes initiative, and it
Yeah,
takes follow through.
it's also promotion, but the thing is, it's like it takes that. I guess that it's not a selfish act to wait on a line and be at a launch for a product for yourself, not for anybody else. But if you give during that time, there's something triggers, a light switch goes off, and say, "Oh, I'm doing a good thing." Mm-hmm. They feel good about it. They feel, they're helping the community,
okay,
and they're being rewarded. So this is something that I take very seriously, and I'm not trying to like bait people into volunteering or doing charitable work, but if you can at least feel that one feeling, then maybe you do it somewhere else on a volunteer basis, and it's something that's not the law, but it's something that I think that we should at least consider as a society here, right?
It's funny that you mentioned all that because I think that's very well put, and I think I try to live by that myself, even in small actions, showing people. Showing people a small action, how that affects, how that creates a ripple.
Yeah, ripple effect, exactly.
And you said how you came into this business and you're working, and this has nothing to do with what you went to school for. But baby, if that's not cultural anthropology, and if you implementing it yourself, I don't know what that is. Like, if you're talking about studying.
Well, you said cultural. I actually did study cultural anthropology.
Listen, I know.
Did I tell you that?
No.
Oh, you looked at my LinkedIn.
Don't worry about what I did. I'm going to get the information.
Okay. Yeah, so that, I mean, more than my architecture degree, I think that my minor in cultural anthropology has really shaped me and the business and the way my outlook and how other people see me as well.
I think it's huge. I think it speaks to how you can speak to people from different cultures and just be understanding. I think of just the aspect of you create the environment, and if people come and you educate them in the environment, they will bring that information to educate others and change their lifestyle, and then hopefully in turn change themselves. You know, like
Grow.
grow simply,
Yeah.
just grow.
Yeah.
But you're creating a space for people to grow in. I think there's power in that. You know,
A little garden.
yeah. And I love gardening, so
Yeah,
I appreciate
me too.
that one. But tell me a little bit more about the cultural anthropology and what made you want to get that minor.
So it was a cross with, I guess, the design department where in history affects and society affects our culture and design. First of all, that was the actual curriculum of that minor, and we were talking about industrial engineering objects like iPhone, right? iPad. That like shape this is shaping the world,
Yeah.
right? It's shaping culture. It's
Yeah.
shaping our bodies, all right? So, and how does that affect design and architecture, like with my major? But when I studied that, I started looking at all different kinds of cultures and how they dressed and how they used tools and how they carried themselves and how they inhabited buildings and how they built buildings, how they designed buildings, how they designed clothes, any object. And this is our built environment, and this is something that we as humankind are shaping. But the danger right now is it's shaping us.
Yeah,
So we have to be very careful about the control. But I think it's again a tool, right?
Yeah, we gotta
it's useful.
raise their awareness
Yes.
because like people aren't aware of the things that are shaping them currently. You know.
Can I give you an example then?
Go
so
ahead.
just in a physical, mechanical aspect of how the iPhone or the mobile phone is affecting the shape of a human being. So there's a high there's a study that there's a high rate of this condition. It's called gooseneck, and that's when your neck goes like this, right? And your shoulders are internally rotated, and then people are walking around like this, right? And a lot of the studies are pointing to technology is because of our constant internal rotation at the shoulders with the iPhone, right? Like this, and you're looking down. So what that does is shortens the tendons and the ligaments on your neck, and it brings your chin down, and it drops you forward like that. So this is a small thing that I kind of noticed, and then I kind of Googled it, and then I read it's an actual study. It's an actual, like, this is what's going on.
Yeah, I mean I can respect that. I think you have that for real?
Yeah, so there's ways to untrap yourself from that, right?
Yeah,
and
I
that's
mean,
by movement. And
Another part of that is example would be people not realizing, like we talking about blue light. Simply just the blue light and the issues people cut with their sleep pattern, how that affects it. And if your sleep pattern is thrown off and you're not aware of it being the blue light, you can change as a person. Like you can get easily irritable. Usually
cruel.
You definitely become cruel, but
Cranky.
But the thing about that is people don't understand. I think people aren't aware of. It's when that stuff is compounded for days, weeks, months. That's how we end up with mental illnesses.
Yep. We're being trained into it.
You know.
Right. So it's we weren't born this way.
No.
Right. It's our environmental factors, it's our decisions, it's our habits. So I want to give you a quote before I forget this, and this I found in the wilderness last week. It said, how did it start? It said, maybe I should read it to you. It said, watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, because they become habits. Watch your habits, because they become your character. Watch your character, for they become your destiny. So that was from the Tao, Book of Tao. And when I read that, I had to read it, I think, 9 or 12 times to really understand what that meant. It's so simple,
Yeah.
but it's a chain. And there's a source, and then there's the destination, which is destiny, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are decisions that we make, and we keep repeating them over and over and over again. Whatever it is, you're getting trained into doing it, and then your body's gonna get acclimated to it,
Mm-hmm.
and your body's gonna need it, and your body's gonna deactivate. And it's the same thing with the mind, right? So the blue light and circadian rhythm, which I studied that as well during pandemic. I think I got like 7 college degrees during the pandemic. From my wife says that that I should be an honorary PhD from University of YouTube.
YouTube University.
University. So the circadian rhythm. So there are studies out there and a lot of content about sunshine and vitamin D and circadian rhythm versus the blue light and timing and rhythm of.
Just to throw it out, I'm going to interrupt. Just you mentioning that is that I started drinking chlorophyll water. Speaking about sunlight, and it's been amazing for me. Like regards of energy, I want to say, I want to be more respectful. Diet, my digestive system, like
microbiomes,
all
right?
that. It's
yeah.
I feel all of the benefits of it. You know.
Yeah, that's a good thing. This might sound crazy, but I sometimes tell people that we're descendants of trees. But if you think about it, say we need water, we need nutrition, and we need sunlight because we have to grow, and chlorophyll is in trees, right? And we need trees to actually get the oxygen out of it.
Yeah, we would be nothing. We would not be there without them. So
and they need us with the carbon dioxide and the nitrogen for them to expand, and then I think it's a great symbiosis, and that's why I do like going out into trails and things like that, and being in a forest. So.
Yeah, I don't want to miss this. You had mentioned something. You said, I read this when I was out in the wilderness.
No, okay, finding something in the wilderness is finding something on Google.
Okay.
So it's I can't source it. I can't remember where I found it, right? And it's in the wilderness. Right?
Okay,
it's not like
okay.
I went out into the wilderness I found a book. But when I say wilderness, it means the internet.
Okay.
Or
I
it
got
means.
I didn't know if that's what you call your outings on the weekend or something.
No.
Say I'm going into the wilderness.
No. So I think somebody coined that when they found a special product out there and they don't want to give up their source where they found it. So I found it in the wilderness, right?
All right.
I found it in the wild.
Okay. What were we just talking about? You just mentioned. I want to make sure I touch on this because it's relative to.
I have your list here.
You had mentioned along the lines of. You're talking about people not. Was it not knowing themselves?
I did not say that.
Well, along those
not
something?
knowing themselves,
No.
but it's the mind. We were on the topic of the trifecta or the Trinity, right? The mind, body, and the soul.
Okay.
So I didn't get to the part. And is this the direction you want to go, or is there something else that
no, we can go. I'm gonna remember.
So So the connection between the mind and the body was, it was great, right? So I was like, okay, things are very clear to me, but there was something missing, right? And I was like, okay, I got to think about, how to like put this all together. And I started reading about like different religions around the world, and like Islam, Hebrews, and Christians, Catholics, Buddhism, and there's always that common denominator of the soul, right, in their scriptures. And it's something that I think right now, looking back upon studying that and throughout my experiences, thus far, the mind, although it is infinite in span, it's finite in duration, same as the body. It's finite in duration and it's finite in span. Okay, we're all gonna go, right? We're going back to Mother Earth, and then get back into circulation. But I think the one thing that is not the standard for everybody, but should be and could be, is that the soul is eternal and it is limitless.
Do you believe in
span
reincarnation?
And duration. Pardon?
Do you believe in reincarnation?
I'm working on that. I can't say I believe it. I could say that it's a concept that can be twisted and looked at in different ways. Scientifically, it's not, I'm not going to say it's not feasible, but I think it's a philosophical term where, like I said, you go back into recirculation. We go back to Mother Earth and then into the soil. So sorry to say, we're going to feed the worms. That's going to feed the soil. That's going to feed the tree. That's going to feed the acorn. That's going to feed another tree. That's going to feed a bird. That's going to feed. And then it goes, and then you're in the air and the atmosphere, and then it's like the cosmic order. But the reincarnation part, I think, is the soul is coming back, in maybe in the same form as the soul, but in a different body.
Yeah, I mean,
a different mind.
When we talk about energy never being destroyed, just transferred, right?
Yeah, that's an equation.
If we got the body going somewhere, and we know what happens to the mind, like something's got to be happening to the soul.
Yeah, it's growing, or at the same time, I don't know, depending on where someone's at. I mean, it's another rubber band situation. It's expanding and contracting, so it could be decaying, right? Or it could be growing, right? Just like seasons in the weather, right? Life is all about expansion and contraction. It's all about cycles. I think everything's in cycle. All history is cycle.
That's a fact. But what I wanted to mention before was it wasn't people not knowing themselves. I guess we were talking about people and being tool dependent, I guess, or like not being aware of, like, we talk about how technology is changing the body and all that stuff, right?
Oh, that's a mental aspect, yeah.
Yeah, so when I think about that, I think of how so often, like, it took the pandemic for a lot of people to sit down, right, and look within themselves, right? And so often people look outside themselves, being so caught up in the rubberand, being pulled in facts, that you're looking for this solution that can fix all these things outside of themselves, when in reality they need to look back internally.
That's a very, let me try to unpack that, let's say. So yeah, I think technology, social media, legacy media, just all the propaganda that is going on right now is really consuming. We as consumer are becoming consumed by content, and it removes our presence. Now, when I say presence, we were talking the other day about how I played with the word presence and present, like a Christmas present, right?
Mm-hmm. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, by the way, to you too, to you and yours. And if we could simplify how we are in uh, let's say a congregation. A meeting is a congregation, right? They say a church is not really a building. A church is actually two people congregating or more, right? So that's actually what a church is. So when we are congregating and we have reduced presence, we are not giving ourselves to each other as gifts. That means I'm thinking about 3 or 4 other things while we're talking. Phone's gonna ring. My text came up. I'm talking only about myself and thinking only about myself. That's not presence. You're absent.
Yeah.
So your mind is not there. So I'm not giving you the respect. I'm not giving myself to you as a gift, and vice versa. So that's a very simple way of looking at it, okay? So that's the presence. And from this movie, Kung Fu Panda,
Okay.
Master Oogway says, and I don't know where he got this from, but he said, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. That's where I got my little spiel from for the presence of mind. Because it's like they play with words so much and it looks like a poem, but the thing, it makes so much sense.
It does.
So if you start simplifying things that way, I believe that it's going to be very, very, not easy, but it's easier for somebody to get their mind in order and to get, I'm not going to say control the conversation, or it's to get the answer that they're looking for if they're going to ask you a question, if they need to know something, right? Yeah. So it's something that it's always in negotiation, but the thing is, that negotiation, you always have to give yourself, right?
Yeah.
And be present. Don't be absent-minded. Whatever the other person is saying to you, intake it, process it to what the conversation is and how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And then eject it, and then that's the conversation. That's the congregation. Whether you agree with that person or not, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you took it seriously and that you gave the proper respect in any conversation, right? Negotiation, it's all negotiation, right?
Yeah,
so.
I like that. I like that because that's the key of the communication for me is like you mentioned, you said it was to give people background of our conversation. I was explaining to Chuck about how I explained to somebody that they have a friend that says things to them and sometimes they don't understand that person, and I feel as if it's the friend that's trying to explain something, responsibility to explain it in a way that the friend who's not getting it understands it. And you related it back to how the friend that's talking, he's not present because he just wants to say something rather than look to be understood, or if the friend understands this in the aspect that he's trying to get it off or the context that he's trying to say it in. So that was the background. So thank you for that, Chuck.
Thank you. I think that's something that we're missing a lot in our culture and society because of there's just way too much information that's being dumped on us, and it's hard to filter and process things, and we just get very distracted. So the distraction is something which is the opposite of focus, right? And it's taking over our minds, and I think a lot of the ailments in mental health is coming from a lot of distraction, and overload of information. Right? We've come into a very transparent world, but that transparency, which is supposed to be a good thing for our society, is just overloading us, which I think we can handle as human beings, and we have the bandwidth to do it, but we got to be able to process it the proper way.
Yeah, you've got to take that time to grow and become self-aware, become self-conscious, and apply importance to the things that need to be import needs to be applied to, you know?
Yeah, I think that's something to hold us.
I like it. I appreciate you.
No, that's very relevant, and I like your approach, and then the way that you titled your work, and it's so insightful and like very purposeful. That's the thing, right?
I'm trying to be.
But it's also it's very broad. But who would have known you bring me on to?
Because I firmly believe we all got something to say. And then honestly, coming in and talking to you, I'm like, shit, you got so much I want you to say to people. Because like, this is what it's all about. Like giving people the information. Like that's what you need. You need the information.
Yeah.
What you do with that information is on you. Like it goes all the way back to your quote from Kung Fu Panda. At the end of the day, it starts internally.
That's right. Everything starts eternally. So how you process your environment is very important on what the results are with your mental health and your physical health and your health of your soul, right? So it's things that you have to be able to process. But I think there's different ways people do that, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. And I'm still learning. I'm still working on how to come up with some kind of exercise or a ritual that can help people just clear the air and then really process things the proper way, see things very clearly. And I thought about meditation, exercise, yoga, breathing, right, breath control, but also thinking, right, writing and even speaking or recording yourself, or just to get things out. That's why there's a lot of therapists out there, even online right now, so you could get online therapy.
I'm going to school
But
for that.
The whole thing about therapy is get that person to take those thoughts, which is so much chaos in their mind, right? And they don't know how to organize it, so it's confusing us all. We're getting confused, and how do we create order out of this chaos, right?
That's it.
And
That's it.
as far as linguistics and human our cultural anthropology and languages, right, and how we use it to actually form our whether it's our emotions or whether it's feelings, which are two different things. How can we use these words to help us and speaking? So we're forcing ourselves to organize and create order out of it, so that somebody else can understand what my emotions are, number one, or what my feelings are, number two. And don't ask me what the difference between the emotions and feelings are, because I'm still working on that as well. But there is a difference.
There's
So
difference. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, please. I want you to tell me what's the difference between emotions and feelings.
In my opinion, I think feelings are a sensation.
A sensation, okay? So it's like more like an instant, immediate type of. An emotion is like what?
When you put to it, like when I'm feeling sad, I feel it in my shoulders, in my chest. You feel it in a certain place. The emotion is sad.
The emotion is sad, but
when
the
the
feeling
is in my body. It's a sensation.
It's a sensation. Okay. I'm gonna need time to wrap my head around that. Okay.
Listen,
so I'll get back to you.
I could have just
on
gave you a
that.
whole bunch of bullshit, but that's how I feel.
No, I really need to process that, so I can't respond to that.
Take your
But
time. I like that.
I think that's a very a good way to differentiate, because most people, I think that they're the same thing.
Oh.
And there's an important reason why people should know the difference.
Yeah.
So, I've been studying, like during my University of YouTube, the sources of emotions
Okay.
and how it affects mental health. And I don't want to oversimplify things where somebody's problem can be that simple that I'm just dismissive of how they should be treated or treating themselves.
But
So
this is a safe space, though.
okay, so I looked at it as a very formulaic process, very primitive and archaic, like all the way back to 10,000 years ago, where
I'm right
you
there
know,
with you. I'm loving it.
we had no creature comforts. There was no such thing as shoes, concrete, cars. So how did we feel back then? What were emotions? And then I started thinking about what is the same, what was different, right? But I think there are two things that are the same, right?
Okay.
And it developed throughout the millennia. And it's fear,
Okay.
right? And let's talk about fear, all right? And these are all something that happens in the mind that is actually a biological, mechanical, chemical, hormonal phenomenon. So fear is basically, people call it a feeling or an emotion. I reduced it all the way down to a cortisol dump. So your pancreas is I don't know if it's your pancreas or what.
I know what you mean. It's something that a
Right,
gland
it's an
that.
organ that creates a hormone. I think it's a hormone, and there's two from that same gland. It's the adrenal gland.
There we
So
go.
it's adrenaline and fear, right? So cortisol, I read is, and I could be wrong because I don't know exactly. I don't have a degree, nor am I certified in these studies.
We got,
So,
the,
but
we
I'm
got the
just
disclaimer.
trying
Don't
to-
worry. We got the disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. So I'm just trying to simplify for people that have these complicated feelings and how to take these complicated feelings and emotions or thoughts and try to simplify. Where is that coming from? It's like we are taught all these things in school about biology and all that stuff, and nobody, like, there's two things that, the most important things that nobody teaches us in public, private school, college, university, is basic emotional literacy, what certain words mean, and where these emotions come from, right? So if I know that this fear, which is creating this anxiety, creating this paralysis, I can't move, I can't think, I can't talk, I'm saying all the wrong things, I'm hurting other people, I'm hurting myself, is just based on fear, which is a chemical, a hormone, right? Again, I'm not oversimplifying this for people that have very
I don't think you're
complicated
oversimplifying this
situations.
because that is literally what it is, though.
So we want to take it to like a very primitive level and say, okay, I'm not as scared. That was a cortisol though. And then there's adrenaline. That's like rage, right? That's the wrath. One of the 7 deadly sins is wrath. And it's like, why is wrath a sin? So you're hurting other people with rage, okay?
Yeah.
You're hurting yourself with rage. You're hurting a process. And where does that come from? That's adrenaline,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of people out there that are adrenaline junkies, and that's great. Some people get so much adrenaline during a highly stressful situation. They could pick up cars. If somebody's stuck under the car, that's all adrenaline, right? So think of how powerful that is, right? And if that's going uncontrolled into your brain, of course you're gonna have problems. Of course there's gonna be chaos. Of course there's gonna it overtakes you.
Yeah. And
It
that's
controls you.
and there is has been a very large push in education for social emotional learning to bring awareness to this, because everything that you said is correct. I think even when we talk about other emotions, there might be complex actions that make us feel this, but all of it is very simple chemically at a biological level. You know what I mean?
Right, and if you certain, it's like certain level, it's like a recipe almost, right?
Yeah.
In certain levels, a pinch of this and a pinch of that creates this emotion, right? And it's how do we deal with this?
And
That's the question.
And I think
Without what is that? Without pharmaceuticals, right? Because they work, right?
yeah.
But how do we do it without the pharmaceuticals?
And
So that's like,
and that's why I commend you, and I say I appreciate the environment you're trying to create here, because we have to shift the environments, because we have to look at what are the things, like to your point, it is chemical at its basic, at the most basic level, it's chemical. But then to your point of not wanting to diminish people's realities, is that there are environmental factors that keep you in that or trigger those things, where in reality you don't need to be fearful. But like, how do you tell a kid that grows up in the hood, when he goes to school and he feels safe to go home and his adrenal gland starts pumping? That's just what it's gonna be. So you got to change the environment, you know?
yeah.
Or you teach people coping skills to overcome wherever they're at. And that's
I
the
think
information.
teaching them, right, is that information, is that knowledge.
Yeah.
Is that knowledge. So where is this coming from? Why do I feel this way? What am I going to do about it, right? But I would like for us in the future to maybe develop an exercise that doesn't take any kind of clinical type of prescription or anything like that, and incorporate things like breath control, meditation, and even like compound like exercises and movements, right? And also maybe picking up like a musical instrument, singing, whatever it is, right? That's really gonna take you into that place where you're forcing yourself to become uncomfortable, so you could create a discipline and train yourself and to learn how to breathe in the right spot. So like, let's take for instance the best free throw in the NBA free throwers, I'm gonna tell you, are the ones that have the perfect breath control.
Okay.
Because that focus, it's a theory, all right?
Okay.
If you know how to breathe correctly and properly under extremely high intensity and situations and circumstances, and perform and succeed, it's a combination of muscle memory or the neural pathway, but more importantly is the rhythm of your breath.
Because that's going to keep everything in line.
Exactly. And the thing about anxiety, I consider this, and people argue with me about if this is correct, but, and of course I've never been in experienced a situation that's close, like almost close to this. Anxiety is in a way can be likened to the sensation of drowning. So what happens when you're drowning is that the connection between your brain and your diaphragm gets cut off. Your diaphragm is in charge of your lungs pumping in air. It's a pump.
Okay.
So if that disconnection is made, right, then the brain shuts off and it becomes like nervousness, fear, anxiety. And let's say somebody jumps out behind the corner and says, boo, scares you, or you watch a scary movie. What's the first thing you would do? You gasp for air.
Yeah.
Would you be doing that same thing if you were drowning? When you're underwater, what's the last thing you want to do is gasp for air. You're dead. So what's the answer to this? So this is what I call breath control, right? Instead of inhaling when you're in a conflict, blow
this shit is
that
good.
dead gas out. So you
This shit is
got
good.
carbon dioxide and nitrogen sitting at the bottom of your lungs. You breathe in that oxygen before you expel that carbon dioxide and nitrogen. That goes back into your bloodstream. So all that dead gas gets back into. If you see people with crackly joints, their ankles click, their knees are clicking. They're just walking.
You're talking about me right now, but keep going.
That's not a joint problem.
That's a breathing problem?
That's a breathing problem. There's too much carbon dioxide and nitrogen inside. That's where they all end up. That's why people crack their knuckles. That gas is carbon dioxide and nitrogen. Okay. Right? So we need to expel that, all right? And then bring in oxygen, just like the chlorophyll water.
That's been amazing for me.
Right? But that breathing, right? If you exhale before you take the live gas in, then I think people will be in a better place.
Okay, we got to look into that. Because, well, this is definitely a conversation I would love to have with you moving forward, because going to myself, I'm going to school right now, and I think that is definitely a long-term goal of, I think that could be a way to help people forever. You know what I mean? Of developing some type of resource for them.
Yeah, almost like a kind of like a not a common sense field guide in a way where, but these things are
You talking about
easy to
Thomas Paine right now?
easy to forget. It's like a guide.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe I found that in the wilderness.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's something that I think that and the other secret they're trying to keep from us is financial literacy, right? So they need to keep. Okay, you told me. I told you.
I stopped right there. I'll stop right
That's
there.
a conversation for another
time. We double back.
Time, right?
We double back for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the health and wellness right now.
Yeah. So it's all part of it. But let's go back to that kid that's in the hood, right? And he's got to walk home, and then he's got a cortisol dump when he's like finally caught his breath, and now he's hyperventilating because he's doesn't have. Can you pause for a second?
We can
I
just
need
come
to
back
help Mark.
So let's take 3 minutes out of it. I don't got too much left for you. That's all good. What were you saying before you had to go help Mark?
So we were talking about the kid walking home from school.
Oh yeah, changing their
walking through
environments and
school.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
and teaching him coping skills.
Right, and I think if there are too many forces working against you, I agree. It does make it much more challenging to be able to get that handle on yourself, right, and your environment. And I heard a quote somewhere out there is that they said that people are a product of their environment, but this gangster said my environment is a product of me, and that kind of hit home. So I didn't say it the right way, but if I think you could control your environment if there is a lot of understanding of yourself.
For sure.
So it's that self-awareness, and I think being able to negotiate with yourself, right, and how to calm yourself down, and how to become clear in high stress situations, and again, learning how to breathe properly, and next time you're in a conflict, just breathe out, and the conflict will be over.
I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna hold you to
really
it.
True.
I'm gonna hold you to it, Chuck.
Yeah. So I'm not guaranteeing it, but
I see. You don't want me outside
with the black eye.
outside scout banging.
So it's something that I think like a lot of martial artists train this way. It's a constant repetition of the same movement over and over and over again. So there's a mastery of that movement. So it becomes kind of the tool to create that act of violence or whatever
It's
right?
unguardable.
Right. So if you can master something, but the one thing that is so difficult for us to do, which is such a basic feature and function of our lives, is breathing. Right? And I think once we learn how to, and that's what meditation is, right? So it's taking a chalkboard that has all these formulas and all this chaos on it. When you meditate, the only thing, and this is the tool you think about, is your breathing, the rhythm, the control, how much you're exhaling, how much you're inhaling, the shape of your breath, right? And then that chalkboard behind you gets erased. Everything, all of those equations and those whatever it is on there, that chaos, right?
That's true.
So if you could, and then you could start over. Then things on a blank slate, right? And then things will be clearer. And that's why a lot of people, I'm learning how to meditate. I'm not there yet, but it's something I try to practice.
I had my stint with that of trying to. Did you ever develop or choose a mantra that was your favorite?
I have a couple. So there's one that's like it's a Buddhist chant. But what's yours?
I was trying to remember it now, but I can't remember. I don't want to botch it and be disrespectful, but it's along the lines of Ganesha something something. I know Ganesha is like the elephant god from over there.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
it was a calm time for sure. Practically like focusing on my breathing, trying to just what do they say, catch a thought and let it go, and not
Right.
hold it.
So it's kind of the opposite of presence, right? It's the actual practice of absence.
Yeah.
And that's important because if you could practice that and you become very like masterful at it, then in times of conflict, in times of struggle, in times of intensity, you know how to stay calm.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a muscle memory, and this is what my body needs to do. I'll feel uncomfortable immediately if I don't do it, and then that way you can negotiate the conflict,
Yeah.
right? So, but it takes repetition. It takes a lot of discipline, right? Sitting still is not easy.
No, it's not at all.
Right? And trying to erase your mind of thought is close to impossible, but it's not impossible, right? So that's the one thing I look at impossibilities, right? So I don't know if the etymology, impossibility and the opposite would be a miracle. So to me, a miracle would be taking an impossibility
And making it mundane.
and making it, trying your hardest, right? With discipline, with skill, with your knowledge, with force, turning it into an improbability. That's easy. Turning an impossibility is easier to turn into an improbability than to a possibility.
Yeah.
So you take that improbability, I probably can't do it, but I know it's possible now.
Yeah.
So this is the miracle, right? And I don't know if the word miracle is formed from the word mirror, right? Which is the self-reflection. How do you take that improbability, right? Now that take that improbability and say, okay, it might be easier to take that improbability and turn it into a possibility. Now here's it's almost like an equation with words, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do I take that probability, that possibility, and turn it into a probability? If you take it step by step, it's possible and it's probable that you can make a miracle happen.
If you take it step by
Exactly.
step.
It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of willpower, a lot of educating yourself, right? So a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But you can't go from impossible to a probability without taking those steps. So if people could look, especially young people, because we're all dreamers, okay? But especially young people, I think if they understand the process and the journey, with the destination is to make that a probability, the impossibility. That's the destination. But what's more important for them, for all of us, is not that probability, is not the destination. The miracle is actually the journey.
And I think this is a conversation I definitely want to have further with you in the future, because I want to talk about it now, because when we talked about developing something, and I think in that is where work can be done on having young
we
people.
could put it in we could illustrate it,
Exactly.
right? And then it's something that people need to visually see that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought of that in my brain, but then I said, this is actually something that needs to be graphically presented so that it could stamp that image into their brain. So when they are in conflict and they are depressed and they are sad and they think something's impossible to get out of, that visual is there. So that's a symbol.
And I keep coming back to the, how do I put this? The external rewards come from the internal work rather than the internal rewards coming from external work. You get what I'm saying?
Internal rewards coming from external.
So the external rewards come from the work you do internally. And people get so caught up on the work they can do externally to change them internally.
That's a fact.
You get what I'm saying?
No, that's an equation. That's actually a scientific fact, right? And there's no way around that, right? And it's like people think about, you know, being clever and making shortcuts and not doing the due diligence. And it's not cheating, but the thing is, you're cheating yourself in a way. Because that journey, that work, is actually more important than the reward.
It's everything.
That's experience.
It's everything.
That's knowledge. People see the work. That's your legacy. That's your destiny. And that's how you live forever.
It's your character, right? Your habits, your destiny.
That's eternal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not the reward that you got, like a fancy car or the house or the clothes or the sneakers. It's actually, okay, this is how I attain these things. But you know what? These things aren't important to me. It's how I got them.
And I love and I'm basing a lot of my conversations that I have with people around people that fit that kind of mold. You know what I mean? Because like I know I can recognize somebody that's gone through it, as in like the experience and put the work in based on them willing to give it to somebody else and inform somebody else on how to get through it, because the shit is real and it's rewarding and not everybody can see that.
Right. So how are we going to make it visually present to them?
Oh, we're gonna.
So they can actually take that shortcut. They don't have to find out the hard way, right? And get into trouble or get themselves into trouble or make trouble or have trouble on their mind, right? So this is something that I think that all people should be taught in education.
Yeah. It should
right?
be.
It
should be their foundation.
Yeah, but we're not, it's because it's a secret.
Yeah.
There's too many industries that don't want us to be.
So wait a second. Not everybody needs to cope in a healthy way. We got people, like to your point, literally holding up industries, whether they be pharmaceutical drugs or what else they be. You know.
I'm biting my tongue.
We're not going to go any further. We're not going to go any further.
We'll talk off air on that. 'Cause there's a lot to say about that.
I have a couple things I want to ask you though before we wrap this up. Tell me about Caesar.
Caesar, the boxer?
What does that mean to you?
Wow, that means that's a lot of history. So it's a very loaded subject. That I think he was at one point a face for the store. A lot of people it was mixed. A lot of people were very accepting. They loved him. They came to the store just to see this puppy. Mm-hmm. He became a big dog. He's a boxer, right? And he looks kind of mean, but he's kind of like cute at the same time. But he's like he is very, very intimidating looking. But he had the biggest heart of gold. He was just all love.
That's awesome.
All love, right? So if you think about it in a way, if you don't have the pure thoughts and you're afraid of him, then you know what? I'll let that be. I'm not gonna force you to try to like my dog. But I like put him in the back of the counter and stuff, and your customer. But the thing is, I brought him to work pretty much every day, and then he became, and people that I haven't seen for years, they always bring up Caesar. But he made work a little bit more fun, and he made the customers really happy. And he kept everybody in check,
That's for sure.
So
I like that.
Love that boy. Yeah. So he actually, when I first came across the street that same year, we lost him. So he lived a long life for a boxer.
He had a happy life.
So yeah, very happy life, and and then I started seeing the quality of his life deteriorating because of he had a tumor in his brain, and that's where a lot of these bigger, like medium-sized boxer type breeds go, is because of that same, yeah. So it was kind of sad in the end, and oh man, it tore me up. But it's, you know, it's part of life though, right?
Yeah.
So it's just something that I had to go through, and you know, it's just something that I look back upon it and just smiles.
Well, thank you for sharing your memories with Caesar.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's really appreciated.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about Yogi Sthenics.
Yogi Sthenics. Okay, so this is a practice that I'm trying to develop out of the experiences I'm having in the store with my customers that are number one, athletes, okay, number two, mobility patients, people that have back issues, shoulder and neck issues, a lot of knee pain, a lot of hip stuff going on, and they're being sent to our store for the equipment to help them with, like, whether it's shoes or insoles and things like that. But I've been seeing very common theme of what these people are going through, and it could be anywhere along the kinetic chain, starting from the foot to the ankle to the knee, hips, shoulder, neck, and all the back. So your joints are there to do one thing, is to protect your spine.
Yeah.
And your spine is your control center for how you live.
Yeah.
That's your life right there. So all of these joints have a specific necessity. And if one joint goes out, then the whole chain breaks down. Okay? So what is the common thing that I saw with all of these people that are coming in, whether it's shoulder, neck, knee, and then eventually arthritis, right? And then bone density issues, right? And this is what's going on a lot with a lot of people that are growing older, is that, especially women, that there's a bone density problem. And this is what happens when...
What is that?
The buzzing sound?
Yeah.
Are you charging the battery? He's recharging a battery.
Oh, I'm so sorry. All right.
You thought it was one of your machines?
Yeah, I thought.
It's gonna like catch on fire because of the fire I'm spitting. No.
This guy.
So how can we help these people, right? That all have the same problem, and there's two things that happens. It's underuse or overuse of this joint, okay, of your spine, of a ligament or a tendon. So I am working on developing this practice. It's called Yogi Sthenics. So it takes yoga, the stretching from yoga, and then the word calisthenics, which is basically mass building and strength building without equipment. So no weights. So this can be done anywhere, anytime, under any circumstances, right? You have no excuse not to do these things. So, I need to go to the gym to get my swole on and stuff like that. No, you don't. You could get strong. You could realign yourself. You could build power. You could actually build mass. It might take you longer than weights. That's a shortcut. But the thing is, you're actually building power.
Yeah.
So if you look at a lot of bodybuilders, they have a lot of mass.
They're just size.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're pretty much very strong at isolated movements. But they're not strong in a compound movement.
Yeah.
I don't think many bodybuilders can do as many pull-ups as a calisthenics practitioner, right? Because that's how they're building their mass, is through that practice and over and over again. So the muscle memory gets developed. And then that's how the strength and power is created. So it's through compound movements. Same things with push-ups, body weight squats. So what if we take yoga and mash it with calisthenics and make these compound movements where you're saving time, you're saving energy, but you're producing maximum power output, right? For a lean, aesthetic, healthy looking, strong body, which is easy on your joints, and actually make your joints and the cartilage and all the collagen, all the tissue that that your tendons and your ligaments are not getting overstressed as you would do in weights. So it's all actually strengthening your connective tissue as well.
Okay.
So that's the project that I'm trying to develop right now. And
how long have you been working on that?
since this summer.
Okay.
But I've been practicing it. So I am actually making a keynote presentation with the exercises and the descriptions and what it's good for, what muscles that it targets and what ligaments and joints it targets to make it visual for the person to see, to make it easy. Because kinetic alignment and just kinesiology itself is all, you can't just put it in words, right? You have to put it into a picture, but more importantly, you should make a video of it, right?
As you say, find a way to make it simpler?
Yeah. So I'm starting with words and like stills, right? So I'm just like putting diagrams up and a list of what the functions of each exercise is and each stretch is and how you should combine them. But what's really important in this exercise is breath work. So I'm talking about how you're going to breathe on the eccentric part of this exercise versus the concentric, right? And how you're going to be eccentric. Where do you put the speed and the time into it? But where's the exhale going to go? Where's the inhale going?
So it's
very important.
Very specific.
Yeah. So these are the key things that build the neural pathway, which is the muscle memory, right? It's the rhythm from the breath. When is it concentric? When is it eccentric? When are you pulling? When are you pushing? When are you inhaling? When are you exhaling? So it's a little detailed, but if you can find that rhythm, you don't have to think about it anymore. The body, the muscle memory kicks in, and then it becomes complete control. It takes over you. And that's part of meditation too, right? So you don't have to think about what you're doing. It just comes natural. And then after a while, if you do this long enough, your body is gonna feel uncomfortable for not doing it.
Yeah.
So if you get sedentary, your body's gonna be screaming at you. Start moving, man. It's gonna
get back active.
Get strong, you know? And then the autophagy happens. After 2 weeks, your muscles start shrinking, right?
You said that I could be patient zero.
Yeah. You are my prime guinea pig.
Let's get it. I'm really looking forward to it.
I helped quite a few people, but it's hard to do it because it takes a lot of discipline and constant repetition. But you know, I've seen people's lives change just by just telling them, like you're pointing your feet in the wrong direction when you're walking, you know. And there's small things like that really, if you do it over and over and over again for years and years and years, of course, there's going to be a situation where your body's going to react to it, right? So.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about it because I was going to come in here and ask for another recommendation because
Did you go to Dr. Mello? Did I recommend him?
Oh, no, you didn't recommend a doctor, but
yeah.
I'll think about that. You mentioned, because I'm just thinking about when I wear the Hokas I have now in comparison to I wear other shoes and then I go through the day with them and I get home, there's a noticeable difference.
Yeah. Your feet are your roots, man.
There's a noticeable
difference. That's your contact with Mother Earth. And if you don't contact the earth the proper way, that's going to affect all the way to your brain.
Yeah.
It goes all the way up the chain to the brain, right? That's where pain comes from, and pain creates cruelty.
And it tastes uncomfortability, and then we talked about when we compound that, right?
Yeah.
But this has been honestly a pleasure, Chuck.
Me too.
I really appreciate for you taking the time out. And
thank you for having me. This was really an experience.
All right, before you go, 3 words to describe yourself.
3 words to describe myself. I have flat feet. That's 4 words.
All right, well, This is something to hold us, where our mission is to bring us closer to our emotions, to understand not only who we are, but who we want to be.
Namaste. Peace.